In this video, we cover some of the additional forms in the app and how we'll address them, starting with the details form. The details form becomes far simpler once most of the data moves to the title area. The remaining details are mostly billing, which has its own form, and miscellaneous information such as email, URL, etc. The billing form is important not just because we wanted the details to feel less cluttered, but also conceptually. Billing usually needs to stand on its own as people seek it out and expect help specifically for that feature. It's another relatively simple form that could probably be created with Instant UI. The build form is pretty much a copy and paste with slightly different buttons. I think consistency is a virtue in this case. Here's where things get interesting. The details form allows us to navigate to a styling form. This styling form allows us to click on an area within the UI of the restaurant app so we can customize that area. When a user touches the restaurant UI below, you should see a pop-up dialog with a set of options for customization. Based on the option picked, a different UI will be shown. If foreground or background is selected, we'll open a color picker that allows us to either type in an HTML color or fiddle with intensities to set the right foreground or background color. The font UI should have a very limited set of options, mostly around basic styling. Unfortunately, including TTF files is problematic as we can't open such a file dynamically on all OSs. When image background or icon is customized, we should get a UI that allows us to crop the icon to the right size appropriately, so dish image sizes will always appear correctly on the device when the final app is built. This is important. Images that are too large might also burden the server, so we limit image size in kilobytes on the server. When we adapt the image size locally, we can pretty much guarantee it's not a huge image that will cross a problematic threshold. The details form will contain a lot of details and including all the fields required for restaurant address would be overwhelming. So it might make sense to separate it to a different form that includes all of that. One important detail we need is the geographic location of the restaurant so we can launch accurate navigation to the location. The buttons in this UI allow us to request location from the GPS instead of typing in latitude, longitude coordinates. The About Details form should allow setting the HTML for the About form. In the original design, I wanted both the ability to set a URL for an About page and the ability to embed HTML, but eventually I settled on setting the URL only. These are features that should probably be a part of the app in the future. To keep the app simple, I decided to focus on the core and remove as much of the things that aren't essential. Removing features is probably one of the most important things you can do when designing an app. A plan can be something you write down or have in your head, but without one you are constantly putting out fires and you never get anywhere. An organized plan with a process prevents you from wavering back and forth and keeps you dealing with the priorities. I decided on a depth-first implementation where we will get a specific set of forms working first and then slowly add features. Breadth first is also a good direction, but I prefer depth first as it allows me to validate the whole process from end to end relatively early, and I think that's crucial. This is especially important in this relatively complex app where we might run into conceptual issues that will require re-evaluation of some early designs and plans. Thanks for watching. Next, we'll start implementing the core UI elements.